From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is The Hub with Wang Guan.
Hello and welcome to The Hub on CGTN. I'm Huang Jiyuan in Beijing, sitting in for Wang Guan. China is quickly emerging as a top travel destination, with a notable surge in inbound tourism. To enhance the visitor experience, the country has rolled out a series of traveler-friendly measures, including extended visa-free transit policies. Earlier this year, China launched a nationwide instant tax refund system aimed at further boosting tourism and consumer spending. The new policies lower refund thresholds, streamline application procedures, expand the number of tax-free stores, and broaden the range of eligible products. So how does this instant tax refund system actually work? And what do international travelers think about it? To find out, my colleague Chen Hongjie visited some of Beijing's busiest commercial districts to experience firsthand the city's dynamic shopping scene.
I love China.
Very clean.
Modernity.
It's an adventure.
Really cheap.
100 times cheaper.
People are very, very kind. Tea, absolutely.
Some tea.
Tea's a good one.
Definitely sweets.
Great perfumes here.
Cosmetics.
Face cream.
Clothes, shoes,
I like Chinese style.
the drones, China cars.
Luxury products.
2 cars from China and our home.
I have it tax-free.
It's very easy.
Awesome.
I will try it now.
I'm definitely going to go shopping now.
Well, here's what you might need: a guide to China's tax refund policy. In Beijing, there are over 1,000 tax-free stores offering everything from luxury brands to traditional brands, and from digital products to cultural and creative products. Overseas tourists who purchase products for more than 200 yuan at the same tax-free store on the same day can obtain a VAT invoice and the tax refund application form. They can then choose to receive an instant refund. For example, here at China World Mall, where 100 tax-free stores are located, foreign visitors can shop and get instant tax refunds here at this dedicated counter.
Eligible tourists should be departing China from Beijing within 17 days and have valid documents ready with credit card pre-authorization. Just remember to get your customs verification stamp and cancel your credit card guarantee at the airport before leaving China.
我们在所有的导视屏上呢，有离京退税资格的租户进行了一个标识。未来呢，我们会逐步推进所有国贸商城符合条件的租户进行一个离京退税的申报。
我们的成交率更高了，外籍顾客进店的也是比之前也提升了。现在呢，我们就是最多的时候一天就10几单。离京退税的税务系统升级了，就是效率更高了。
跟我们的这个营业员沟通完之后，说完之后就当时就给他办了这个即买即退的话也比较方便，流程的话更简洁了。中国的这个老字号也是做到了这个宣传。
Tax-free is interesting for tourists.
Foreigners can save money when they travel in China. I think they will be very happy about this.
I think it's really great that China is so welcoming to tourists, and more.
Like a lot of Americans are scared to come to China, and I think that would probably increase tourism, and it would be really good for tourism in the country.
Tax-free is a really good option for people to buy more. I mean, at the end of the day, the more you buy, the more they make. So I think tax-free options are really good for people who want to purchase.
You need to come and see and buy something here.
If you are traveling to China, don't miss instant tax refund here. It's easy and convenient. Enjoy shopping in China.
During the 3-day Dragon Boat Festival holiday in 2025, China's tourism sector saw strong momentum, highlighting the vitality of the country's holiday economy. What can recent domestic consumption data tell us about broader economic trends? And how might instant tax refund policies further strengthen China's appeal to both domestic and international travelers during future holidays? Joining me today in Vienna is Dr. Harvey Dzodin, Senior Fellow of the Center for China and Globalization and former Vice President of ABC TV. And in our Beijing studio, we have Professor Liu Baocheng, Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics. Welcome, gentlemen. As you know, the holiday economy has become a very important topic in China's economic discussions, and this instant tax refund policy is aimed at part of it. So how does this new policy differ from the old one? What's the difference between this new one and the traditional tax refund policies?
Well, the whole aim is really to boost the consumption side because we used to tinker more with the supply side of the Chinese economic reform. Now we realize that consumption is not only part of the economic driver, but also it's really the final destination for economic development. And now China is also taking to the consideration that President Xi always emphasized to further open Chinese door for foreign participation, both in trade, economics, and also in tourism. So this refund policy gives a very strong signal to the global participants who are interested in China. I do not think they are going to come simply for tax refund, but rather, this is really additional benefit for them to really to enjoy the Chinese culture, Chinese cuisine, and visit many of those interesting places and possibly identify business opportunities. But this is really to add on the type of benefit for foreign tourists to purchase from China. And this is also implemented in the right time when we are facing a lot more uncertainties with the U.S. reciprocal tariff. And now, people just come here and buy stuff, and then Chinese government is in a form of subsidizing your own purchase decisions. So this is a great. Another thing is that because it has really introduced the digital service in that regard, so it provides a lot more convenience to the consumers from China. But what I really expect is that we do need to expand more of the duty-free shops and also to encourage more of the foreign visitors to get online to deal with or digital service. So this is something that is not only economically beneficial, but also I think symbolically very much welcome.
Dr. Dzodin, how are the foreigners seeing this instant tax refund policies? And I know there's a duty-free in other countries. So is it the same or is it different? Your thoughts?
I think now China is the gold standard for duty-free. In the EU, for example, if you want to buy something that's duty-free, you go to the shop, they give you some paperwork, then you go to the airport and you deal with a number of different officials who inspect your goods, who give you more paperwork, and eventually approve or disapprove your purchase and give you cash back, often minus some commission. And this is at the same time when you might be worried about catching your flight or your cruise or whatever it might be. So it's not an easy process. It's nice to save money, but it's a big hassle. So what China has done is up the game to make shopping easier so people can have more money to spend instantaneously. It's a really good move in the right direction, together with the visa-free travel that's been extended to many countries. I think it will be a game changer, actually.
As we all know, now is a time of extreme global turbulence, whether it's economic or geopolitics. It's quite a mess. But why is China looking good and looking attractive at this point? And as Professor Liu said, this tax refund policy is about drawing people to China and not just buying things, but trying to invest, doing business here. Why is China attractive now?
Well, I recently produced a book about the Chinese value with regard to the perception and practice. Well, there's no doubt that China is really first standing very close to common sense and getting close touch to reality. We understand what really people need. It's not really what politicians really need. And then the sincerity in the end is going to touch the ground and give more incentives for people to stand closer with you. So when the U.S. is really sitting up higher on their wall of tariff, and China is further opening with the rest of the world by implementing further the integration with ASEAN countries, and also implementing more of the obligations to reduce the tariff and non-tariff barriers, teaming up with the RCEP members. And now we're also engaged in more of the free trade agreement with many other countries, particularly along the Belt and Road. And so this is the right approach that is in stark contrast with what the White House has been doing. This really is there to be further guided by the shared future for humankind proposed by President Xi. And we are moving inch by inch even, at least towards the right type of goal. And so this is something that's what China and also me as a Chinese feel rather proud of.
Dr. Dzodin, as you may know, sometimes we in China are accused of talking our own thing over and over again. And so I want to ask, what's the people in Europe are seeing these days? I mean, what's your experience when talking to them?
With regard to China, I think people are being bombarded with anti-China messages here in Europe. They're being bombarded by the European Union government. They're being bombarded by the news they get from international news media and so on. So China has a very heavy burden or presumption to overcome, because I think from talking to people in Europe are actually afraid to visit China because they don't know what to expect. First it was COVID, now things are recovered, but people still don't know. And a big part of this uncertainty for people in Europe is what kind of welcome will they get when they come to China? What kind of problems will they have when they come to China? I can tell you that I was away from China for 5 years. And when I went back, I found China cleaner, more efficient, and actually more friendly. My experience was that so many people wanted to take selfies with me, something that hadn't happened to me in 20 years. I think that China now is not only open for business, it's open for foreigners, and there's so much more to interest foreign visitors. It's not only the cultural events, it's not only the food, but a lot of it is the shopping. So the shopping has gotten so much more high level. Electronics, robotics that are state of the art.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
You know, during my colleague's visit, we actually encountered several U.S. tourists and expatriates who shared their perspectives on U.S. tariffs and their impact.
What I think about the tariff war right now, I think it's just kind of a power war between our world leaders. It's very ridiculous because it does come at the cost of the Chinese and American people. So we are the ones that are really affected. And like he said, our wages aren't changing. So I really hope they can figure it out and find a common ground that's better for both countries.
Because the war is between Canada, US, and China, US, and Mexico, US. So tariff is really not helping people who live there. It's just getting more expensive.
I think we should all be friends. That's it.
Since you are now in China, will you bring more like Chinese products back to the US?
I think I definitely, and I think the tax-free program could definitely help with that.
Everything's way more expensive in the US now. It feels like it doesn't affect everyday Chinese people nearly as much as it affects American people or the American people living here. It's just sad, and it's worse for us.
With that tariffs in place, what are your thoughts on the instant tax refund policy? Perhaps we can start with the professor.
Well, definitely they can immediately also, it bypasses the tariff. And more importantly, it also gave people a very strong welcome gesture, however much they can really refund. And plus, such a policy is there to reduce the threshold from previously 500 RMB now to 200 RMB, and even for big ticket items. And the one-time refund can be up to 20,000 RMB, which is really significant for individual buyers. And then they also have the direct experience. Talking with Chinese vendors. Actually, many of my friends, they would like to go to the Silk Alley simply just to bargain. And they enjoy the whole bargaining process. And also with some of my students, who come from Africa, from United States, Europe, they enjoy the local dialect. Most people come from Zhejiang province. So this is really something that cannot be substituted by simply e-commerce or, buying from local stores, in the neighborhood.
Dr. Dzodin, have you ever bargained about price in China?
Of course, I've bargained in China, and it takes a little getting used to, but when you see it as a kind of a fun game, a give and take, it's part of the experience of buying things in China. So I've come to love the process of bargaining. Yes, I have.
As we've talked about before, China's holiday consumption is now a really big topic here. As you may know, the inbound spending on China accounts for only about 0.5 percentage point of its GDP, while many other major countries there, that accounts for 1 to 3%. Obviously, there are room for growth, and that's what China is doing with these policies. But from a foreigner's perspective, as somebody who travels internationally and seeing all these different countries, what areas do you think China needs to improve more? And maybe also, what's China doing really good right now?
China is doing more and more of these programs that make it easier to shop, to make it more attractive to shop, making it easier for Chinese people to meet foreigners, because foreigners can get visas to China very easily compared to before, when it was actually, frankly, a major task to apply for a visa, even a tourist visa. Now it's just so easy. And this is very important. I think that there's more that can be done. I think a lot of it is about marketing. So we've just had the Dragon Boat Festival. People need to be informed about what the Dragon Boat Festival is, where it comes from, its traditions, and they have to be able to participate in the excitement of the races and so on, because China's culture is so rich, and because we in the West are being bombarded by anti-China weapon messages that are weaponizing us against China and affecting common people. China needs to show more of its rich culture that most Americans, most Westerners don't even know about. They think China was kind of born as a poor country that remained a poor country for millennia, when in fact China was the #1 country for millennia. And seeing is believing, and I think only by going to China will Americans and Europeans especially realize how important China was, how important it is, and they should not be surprised by China's rise, because China's rise is just China getting back to where it used to be as a peaceful country that lived with its neighbors for thousands of years. We don't know that in the West, and it's really quite unfortunate. The only piece I think that might be missing is that we don't get a chance to meet real Chinese people. Yeah, we meet people who are like concierges in hotels and waiters and things like that. But I believe that the more that we can have people-to-people exchanges, your first premier, Zhou Enlai, had a model. He called it folk diplomacy, and it's a model of diplomacy, not of embassies and ambassadors, but of people-to-people connectivity. And I think that's still missing now. The first time I went to Amsterdam over 50 years ago, I signed up at the tourist office for a program called Get in Touch with the Dutch. And I met a very nice Dutch family who, like me, was a lawyer, and also their children and other members of the family. And from that day forward, for 50 years, I've always had a very favorable impression of Dutch people. The same way from interacting with so many Chinese when I lived there, I have the favorable impression of Chinese people. So what I think we need is to find ways to have people-to-people connectivity between tourists, between foreign opinion leaders and Chinese. I think that's still a work in progress. I think it would make a huge difference to combat the unfair and untruthful propaganda that we're being bombarded with.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu Baocheng and Dr. Harvey Dzodin. According to an exclusive report by US news outlet Axios, the latest poll from Morning Consult shows that as of the end of May, global favorability towards China has continued to rise, with a net favorability rating of positive 8.8. Conversely, favorability towards the United States has fallen into negative territory, reaching negative 1.5. To discuss this, I have a short video titled, "Why is China Cool Now?" For more details, let's take a look. I came across two articles recently. One was in People's Daily. The headline read, "Why is China cool?" Another, by The Economist, specifically referenced the People's Daily's article and asked how China became cool. Both articles were published in May. I can't help but to add another question to this China Cool series. Why is China cool now? I mean, it's not every day you see The Economist writing something that echoes a Chinese media article and, by and large, praises China. I talked about it in my previous video that, according to the Democracy Perception Index 2025, for the first time, most countries are more favorable towards China than the United States. There are many reasons contributed to America's fall in favorability, just like there are many reasons contributed to that of China's rise. Both the People's Daily and The Economist articles talked about a lot of things: the gaming industry, social media, tourism, rich history, electric cars. I don't deny these have contributed a lot to China's soft power rise and the confidence among the Chinese people. But I want to add one thing that I think is missing from this matrix: consistency. Now, that's not some abstract political sciencey concept. In very plain terms, it means you achieve what you said you would achieve. People now talk about China and the Global South getting close, but China had already started providing assistance and training to developing countries 40 years ago in coordination with the United Nations. Some say China is carving up Southeast Asia. While China and ASEAN concluded their negotiations on the version 3.0 of the China-ASEAN Free Trade Area, people forget that the negotiations over version 1.0 started in 2002. Pundits freaked out over China's mediations in the Middle East. But when have you heard China waving flags and yelling war is great? These things don't just grow out of thin air. They take decades of work, building relationships and solving problems, and persistence to achieve. I still remember after the Belt and Road Initiative was first announced, there were so many reports saying it's a threat, doomed to fail, or won't last long. A decade had gone by, and what do we have? The Chancay port in Peru, Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway in Indonesia, Aldafra solar PV project between China, UAE, and France.
When the Chinese leadership make a commitment, most overwhelming majority of the time, they exceed that commitment. Whereas in the other countries, the thinking is the commitment is made by one leader. Maximum that leader will stay 4 or 5 years, and then there'll be a new leader, and they will then change everything.
And it's astonishing to see a governing system, a governing party that's able to look forward 27 years and be able to make specific plans for what the country is going to be looking like then. And I think that is the huge strength of the Chinese system.
When you look back, those things mentioned by the two articles, the electric vehicles, DeepSeek, TikTok, connectivity, their successes were all facilitated by or are the result of a decade of focus that was built on the successes of decades before. Generation after generation, the Chinese people and leaders steadily pursue growth and modernization. And that's the consistency I'm talking about. Setting a goal, having a plan, and pursuing it across a very long time span, step by step, regardless of what might happen in between. It means a pragmatic approach to domestic and international politics, pursuing peace, fostering an environment where everyone can grow together. That quality might not have stood out before when the world had more clarity in it, but it certainly does now. The public might not see it as an attraction in the same sense as an impressive drone show or a flashy new app. And of course, there are many factors contributing to China's success. The hard work and the resilience of the Chinese people, the recognition of a shared future for everyone on this planet. But no matter what happens inside or outside, even now, China is dealing with them by keeping its own pace on the march forward. And that, I think, is what's cool. That's it for this edition of The Hub. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our news coverage continues on CGTN. Bye now and take care.